Welcome to episode 10 of News for the Blues, your weekly bite-sized episode brought to you by the Unholy Trinity Everton podcast. As usual, before we kick off, a little nod to the shirt to my left, which is a 2024-25 pro version away shirt from last season, with obviously Jared Brantby print on the back. Fabulous shirt. Obviously, last season with stake now, isn't it, as well? And that's probably the only little thing where you look at those shirts from the last few years and that takes away from some of the designs, but lovely shirt that. Nice to get that one in the collection fairly recently as well. But let's kick off with things, shall we? In regards to the latest news out of the club, obviously post David Moyes press conference before we travel to Fulham. Big important game tomorrow, 9th versus 10th. If you've got any aspirations of getting European football, you've got to think that we've got to go to these kind of places and pick up 3 points. So it's going to be a tricky one, of course. Decent side, former manager in Marco Silva. Went there last season and won, of course. Let's hope we can do it again. But obviously the press conference, the talk was about the transfer window, and the last time I came on, obviously with this show or with the podcast episode 299 that was out on Sunday, post Brighton, the transfer window was still open. We have since obviously brought in Tyrique George on loan from Chelsea for the remainder of the season with a view to making that permanent in the summer. A player that David Moyes said is an exciting young player, can play off either wing. If you watch any kind of clips of him, he's happy on either foot, which is nice. He's got pace, which is really important. You know, something which we've lacked, I think. And something which probably we really need to look to invest in over the next couple of windows, whether it be at fullback or in those higher positions on the wing. Tyrique George gives us that. David Moyes said, you know, in regards to the opportunity for him to be playing and to be starting games, said he's played a lot of first team football already for Chelsea, whether that's in the World Club Cup, was it, in the summer, or whether it was in the Conference League. Obviously, he scored his first Premier League goal against Fulham last season away at Craven Cottage when Chelsea were getting beaten. He turned the game round and won the game by 2-1. So he's got happy memories of going to Fulham. But with Jack Grealish obviously being injured and like out for the season, David Moyes says it gives him a good opportunity and gives him more options. It'd be great to see him, you know, maybe not get a start this weekend. You never know, of course, but it'd be great to see him obviously work his way up and start games. I think that's really, really important. A young, exciting player like that. It's been a while. Obviously, we got Tyler Diblin, different kind of player. Hasn't got that raw pace, but to see someone with a bit more speed on the wing will be quite nice. So let's see if he gets the nod against Fulham, or if we see him off the bench. The other major story from the transfer window was obviously Dwight McNeil's failed move to Crystal Palace, and you know, it was one of those where, looking from the outside looking in, I don't think Crystal Palace come out of things particularly well. David Moyes was keen to say that none of it was down to Everton Football Club in relation to the move breaking down, so we did everything correctly. I think all the talk was about Crystal Palace, and they almost basically turned the phone off. So Dwight McNeil was left in the dark. Everton were left in the dark. And the move broke down. He said obviously Dwight McNeil's back, he's training. He said there's no issues. He seems happy enough. But obviously it's still, you know, you've got to think that it's a difficult part of the game, isn't it? And it's probably a really difficult thing to deal with when you got your mind set on moving somewhere new. It would have been a fresh start for him after a disappointing season, it's got to be said. A player who's been, I think, really important for us in recent years under the previous manager. I think this season especially, he's massively struggled, and there's no shame in saying that. You've got to be honest with the performances on the pitch, and he just hasn't been at it this season. And I've said it before on the main podcast, maybe there was some kind of underlying issue there. We just don't know, do we? But all we can do is comment as fans and say he hasn't been the Dwight McNeil that we saw under the previous manager. And it probably would have done him the world of good to go and get a fresh start and go and play somewhere new. So we can understand why it does impact players. David Moyes said, players have got to live with that side of the game. It can happen, moves can break down. But he is back with the squad. He'll be travelling, I'm sure, tomorrow, and part of that squad as well. So obviously we back him, of course. He's an Everton player. He's back with it. He's back amongst it. But a shame for him. It was a good move, I think, for all parties, including ourselves. It was a great deal, wasn't it? Wasn't to be. So, both him and both us, we've just got to move on, haven't we, and get on with it. But a little chat around Harrison Armstrong. He's been a feature on this show over the last few weeks because obviously he was recalled from Preston. David Moyes was quite often stating he wanted him to go back to Preston. We thought that was going to be the line that was taken and that would happen. Obviously, because of the injuries we suffered in January, he was brought back in the first place. But he's done well. The manager said he's played well. And, he's staying at the club for the rest of the season. He said he would have liked to have sent them back to help Preston in their bid to get into the Championship playoffs. So we would have been playing those really competitive games that have something riding on them. But wasn't to be. He's with us. He said we've now got more competition in those areas. Obviously, he started again last weekend, didn't he? So he thinks a lot of Harrison Armstrong to be giving him that game time. So I think if he's going to stay at the club, as opposed to going back to Preston, he's got to be given minutes. It can't be a case of we keep him and he's always on the bench. Obviously, we know there's a player there, but he's got to make sure that he's playing regular first team football. So, the chances are we'll see him again tomorrow. But I think if David Moyes is keeping him here, he's going to want to play him more often than not. In relation to player availability across the board, injuries, other than Jack Grealish, David Moyes said they're pretty much there. Michalenko's back. He's back in sailing. He said he's in the squad for tomorrow. We know, obviously, we've had Irabunum back against Brighton and Alcaraz. Obviously, Coleman's been back for a couple of games on the bench. Obviously, the lads have come back from AFCON. Dewsbury Hall, Branthwaite are both back and have been playing. So, as I say, other than Jack Grealish, we're pretty much there at the moment, which is nice. It brings about competition. It brings about options as well. And it also gives the manager questions to answer. One of the main ones being he was asked in regards to playing 4 centre-halves against Brighton, obviously across the back with Branthwaite left back, O'Brien right back, and the 2 lads in the middle in James Tarkowski and Michael Keane. And probably the biggest back 4 ever seen in Wales football, wasn't it? It was just like landing the Giants at back there. But, in one way, it's great from a set-piece perspective. You've got that extra height, haven't you? 4 big lads there. Adding to that the likes of Etienne O'Barry, for example. Harrison Armstrong's not particularly small, better when he comes on. But you also think, well, in terms of the full-back position, and we've been crying out for full-backs whose first thought is to attack. It sort of takes away from that. I think Nathan Patterson was unlucky to lose his position. I think he's played pretty well since he's come in. So the question again tomorrow is, does he look to bring Michalenko back in? Who then drops out to the side? I mean, Jared Branthwaite has got to start every single game without question. He starts. So the question is, if Michalenko comes in, is it going to be Branthwaite and Tarkowski? Is it going to be Branthwaite and Keane? Is it going to be Branthwaite and O'Brien? The likelihood is he'll start O'Brien right back again. So I think it'll be Branthwaite and Tarkowski if he brings Michalenko back in, which I assume that he will. But he said there's no shame in doing it, and he said he won't be afraid to do it again. Maybe he just goes with the same back 4 again. Who knows? But we will see. We will see tomorrow. But a real strange one, isn't it? To have 4 centre halves at the back like that. But it worked in a way last week. But it does take away from those attacking areas. But I think until we address the left and the right back area in the transfer window in the summer, hopefully, it's going to be a case of not so much rotation, but different players playing in other positions until the end of the season. Sort of ended the press conference in relation to the league, and is it easier than last season almost because sides are so closely packed? Is it more difficult? And the manager was keen to stress it's more difficult because obviously the sides are so closely packed. It's more competitive. I think there's 6 clubs within 3 points of each other going for those European positions. Us and Fulham are both included in that. So a win against anyone in and around, it gives you a real boost He said, but it's almost more difficult because obviously of how competitive the league is, especially for us in that sort of middle section, up to about sort of fourth or fifth. So, we know how important every game is. And as I said at the start of the show, if we've got aspirations of getting European football, then these are the kind of games we've got to go and win against a side that are right on the same points. I think they are, aren't they, Fulham? Slightly better goal difference. But these are the sides we've got to be beating if you want to be qualifying for those European competitions. So fingers crossed we can get the 3 points tomorrow when we do travel to Craven Cottage. But that's it from me today. Make sure that you do check out our last podcast episode 299 from last weekend before the kick-off tomorrow. Episode 300 this weekend, which is a big episode for us, obviously. 300 episodes in after we started things off in February 2019. So it's been a long slog over the years. So make sure if you can you tune into episode 300 as well on Sunday and beyond. We're going to be looking back at that game against Fulham and looking ahead to that Tuesday night, another night game at Hill Dickinson Stadium against Bournemouth. Make sure I always put it into the description on the videos on YouTube, on the audio on Spotify and iTunes and things like that. If you want to obviously get involved with either saving a bit of money on this season's Everton stuff or start your own football shirt collection, there's links in both of those, classic football shirts and also for fanatics as well. So you can get on there, start your football shirt collection. There's loads of discounts there at the moment. It was a great one on classic football shirts the other day. 20% off everything from the lowest price down. So there was some great savings on Everton stuff from 24-25. Links are all in the bio there if you want to use them. That also throws a bit of money back our way that we can invest, not really into the podcast, but more so give back to yourselves, our viewers and our listeners. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It's much appreciated. Catch us on Sunday for the post-match against Fulham. We do appreciate anyone, obviously, who does watch, who does listen, and we'll catch you Sunday.